Should I leave it on? Well, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to the Attracting Mr. Right webinar with Shara Ogan. My name is Lori McDaniel and I have the pleasure of introducing her. First, a little bit of housekeeping for everyone. When you arrive, if you could please enter your name into the group chat window, that would be great so we know that you're here and who's here. And then also, if you can, to open up the group chat, what you'll need to do is click on the words YouTube at the bottom right of your video screen, of your video window. You'll see the words YouTube. On my computer, they were in white font, and that is important to be able to open up the group chat window on the right. You'll see it as a column on the right of your screen. And then just be careful that you don't click the YouTube picture, kind of icon picture at the bottom of your screen. That'll take you to the wrong place. You want to click on the words, not the icon, the words YouTube. So a little bit about Shara. Again, I'm just so pleased to be able to introduce her. Shara Ogan is an intuitive life coach. She's clairvoyant and gives readings. And she's also a Reiki practitioner, among many other wonderful things. And I've actually worked with her for about a year, and it's just been phenomenal. She's helped me clear ancestral issues. She's helped me with health and well-being, money. You know, it's just kind of whatever is needed. She miraculously tunes in and really knows what to bring and how to help, how to heal. So it's really exciting for me to be here to introduce her. So I'm going to give it over to you, Shara, without further ado. Thank you for having us all and teaching us all tonight.
Well, thank you, Lori, very much. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here tonight. We were just dropping into a few minutes of meditation before we began, and I was picking up on the energy of the listeners, the audience that we had so far on this call. And it felt to me like this is a really ready audience. Like you're ready for, because the stuff I'm going to teach here tonight, just to give you a little advanced notice, is not the stuff that you're going to find in self-help books. And I've been looking around on the internet a little bit about what they're teaching out there. This is a little bit different. And it's different because, well, not only is it from my own personal experience, but it's different because it's information I've been picking up from the numerous readings and intuitive coaching sessions I've been doing. So I've been looking really at the energy blocks that are going on, and it's amazing that there's certain themes and patterns that are pretty consistent that I'm seeing. And I want to do all I can to help you to find that amazing love, that person who you're just so attracted to and you can't wait to wake up and touch in the morning and go to bed and, his arms, unless you want your own space in your bed, whatever it is, whatever you want to co-create with a partner, you can absolutely have it. And I'm sort of like an ambassador to help you to get there.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything? Go ahead.
I just love that. It's just great.
Awesome. Okay. So with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share with you some of my mysteries and discoveries, as particularly around the 3 biggest barriers to love. So one thing I really picked up about this audience is this isn't an audience that's new to self-help or new to spirituality. You've been in the spectrum for a while. You're on the path, and I think that this information I'm going to provide here, it's like, I feel like this is the right audience for me to provide it to. I was a little nervous, actually. I'm like, are they going to get it when I was preparing? But I really think you're the right audience for this, is what I was intuitively picking up on. Okay, so here's a basic outline of what to expect for the evening. I'm going to introduce myself and tell my story. We're going to talk about the 3 main barriers and obstacles that are hidden in the subconscious getting in the way of attracting Mr. Right, and what to do about them. And then we're going to drop into a meditation, and then we're going to talk about next steps. So here's my story. I'm just going to be vulnerable and share what my journey to find love was like. But actually, before I launch into this, I want to emphasize I'd love for this to be an interactive conversation. And like Lori explained, there's a chat bar at the bottom. And once you click on it, the chat will open. And I'd love to first of all hear who's on the call if you feel so brave enough to write your name. And second, I'd actually love to hear your intentions. Why are you here on the call? What do you hope to get out of it? And if you touch on any topics, or at the very end, I'm going to actually open it up to questions. But if you mention any specific topics, I will try to answer those questions and those topics throughout this conversation. So I'm just going to pause to allow people to write on the chat. Ooh, I got a hello from Kelly. Thank you. Hello. Thank you, Kelly. I really appreciate that. Oh, good. So there's 2 of them there. Good. Okay. I'll probably make mention of communicating on the chat a couple times throughout this talk. But anyways, with no further ado, my story. So I always thought I'd be just like my parents were, which is basically everybody in my family married by the age of 30, had 2 to 3 kids, and lived in, that white picket fence house, and, worked their normal job, 9 to 5. They came home, we had dinner together. I always thought I was going to be like that. But however, that just wasn't the case for me. Throughout my 20s, I struggled with body image issues and dysmorphia. I had a lack of confidence and extreme shame, and I always felt like I was on the outside. I lived a small and isolated existence. Throughout my 30s, I started to grow my confidence and overcome my deep-seated shame, yet I was never able to fully be myself around a man. I always tried to be the person they wanted me to become, and hence I struggled with disidentification, a loss of my own personal identity, being completely detached from the reality of who I was. So my relationships were very short-lived. About 2 to 3 dates on average is how long they lasted. And I was constantly attracting the unavailable man. It actually took me until the age of 40 to actually find love. This is something I'll just expose, that I was actually really ashamed about this fact for the 40 years. But now I understand why it's so, because this is one of my life paths, my life purposes, So these struggles and these journeys I went on to become the person who I am now, to attract the most amazing man into my life, it taught me a lot. It just taught me, like, basically any hardship, shame, body image, any of those issues that women are facing right now on their path to find love, I get it. So now I'm happy to say that I'm engaged, I'm pregnant, and living the truth of who I am from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. So of course, this is a topic I'm extremely passionate about. And here in the Bay Area, it's so prevalent to see women looking for love. It's like half of the people I know. And the most amazing thing happening in my life right now is the clients I work with are having amazing shifts in their lives, not only around love, but there's like carryover. When you become your best version of yourself in one area, it has to carry over to other areas as well. So here's the first hidden secret. Ladies, I'm here to tell you, or men, actually, I think there might be a couple men on this phone, but I'm here to tell you that love happens when and only when you are ready. It doesn't matter how many dates you go on or how quickly you go to bed with them. I get asked by a lot of clients, is that okay? But that's actually not the determining factor. The determining factor is the readiness of your soul. And this is a dichotomy. Actually, I speak a lot. I've been really actually fascinated by dichotomies. They're one of the universal laws that I've been learning about more and more. So the dichotomy here that I'm mentioning is that you have to have, your soul has to be ready in order for that timeliness of love to happen. But at the same time, there's several things you could do to expedite the readiness of your soul. And this is the basis of my love manifestation program and of this telecall. Okay, so barrier number one, limiting beliefs. If you're anything like how I was on my journey to find love, you're probably thinking thoughts like, it's been forever. All the good ones are taken. There's so many more women than men. I'm getting so old. Or I find them, but they end up being blank. Like for me, that blank was unavailable. So I'm kind of curious, what is your, if this topic applies to you, how would you feel in that line? How would you feel in that line? So you find them, but they end up being, it could be they end up being assholes or they end up being something, because we all have patterns in love. Like when we look back on the men we've dated, there's certain consistent patterns. So if you want to be so vulnerable to share, what are your patterns? How do the men end up being? And I'd love to see some of the shares. And Lori, I think you were mentioning one, right? Did you want to share yours?
Yeah, sure. I was just thinking, I thought of another one.
Okay.
Definitely, definitely, yeah, like too young, you know, like either like just too young literally, or they're young and they're my age, you know, like 40s.
Right.
And then the other one I saw was like emotionally just kind of distant. You know, even if we're together, there's like an emotional like disconnect.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see, does anybody else have any patterns that they wish to expose? Insecure. I heard Boone said, I find them, but they end up being insecure. So of course, what does that mean? That I have to be the safety and the security one. I have to provide for them. And that is a great deal of responsibility for a person. They're too difficult, Kelly says. So if they're difficult, it's like this like headache. And then, oh, this relates so much to what I'm going to talk about at the very end, the third obstacle. But it's like we get exhausted. Us ladies get exhausted of being like the caretaker for these men. And the men might say the same thing about the woman too. Anger issues. I'm reading here. Another person said anger issues. They end up having anger issues. And like, this is really not our issue to, I just believe strongly, like these are things people need to work out before they have a relationship, because otherwise you take them into the relationship and then it unfortunately becomes the other person's responsibility. And that's not right. Now, is that? Not at all. So when I look back to all the years I was trying to find love, I was basically selling the world, I'm unlovable. Oops, sorry. Something is wrong with me and no man would want to be with me. I wasn't selling the I've got it all, I'm confident, and full image. However, many of us, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking to if this applies to you, many of us do keep an outward veneer or appearance of having it all together, or confidence. And this over time can get exhausting, especially when it's out of alignment with our truth. So it's our limiting beliefs, which are one of the biggest barriers standing in the way of attracting love, and not just any love, but the right love. And I do firmly believe that there is somebody for everything if they want it. You know, there's a lot of people that are like, there's nobody out there for me, but you know, it's like, do they want it? But if they do want it, absolutely, without a doubt, he's out there. So once these beliefs are altered, you will instantly experience a different interaction with the world around you. I see it day in and day out with every client I work with. We live in a law of attraction universe, meaning that what we're putting out in our thoughts, our actions, our words, and our behaviors is a direct reflection of what we get back. In our second session of the Love Manifestation Program, which I'll talk about at the very end, together we'll kick your core limiting beliefs out of the way. This is my specialty. Before I found love, I actually changed every one of my limiting beliefs, and I had so many. Like it's interesting when you're in the I can't find love. You know, you can't see the trees from the forest. You can't see why it's happening. But on retrospect, when I look back at her in her 30s, she had so many limiting beliefs. It makes perfect sense to me. Now, you don't have to wait for the Love Manifestation Program to begin changing your beliefs. You can actually start right now. And I'm going to offer you a perspective that might actually assist you with changing some of the beliefs, specifically the beliefs about your age. So if you're a woman in her 30s or 40s or even in her 50s, or man, I know there's a couple men on this call, who have waited to find love, in a moment, I'm going to tell you why it's good you waited this long. Yet before I do, let's expose some of those limiting beliefs that we're holding on to. So it goes something like this. What might I believe about a woman being blank age and still single is one way you could phrase the question, or another way you could phrase it is, what might I believe about myself being blank age and still single? Just reflect on that for a moment. And if you're in a relationship, you can ask yourself this question. What are my beliefs about myself in relationship to love? I'm going to repeat that. So if you're in a relationship, you can ask yourself this question. What are my beliefs about myself in relationship to love? It could be that I'm different than everyone else, I'm damaged in some way, I'm unlovable in some way, etc. So I'm going to just take a pause to allow people to write some of their answers to that question. And while we pause, Lori, do you want to hop in on that one?
Yeah, definitely. I'm 44, and I was married and divorced in my late 20s or 30s. I've gone like a long 14 years without a really serious relationship, and just a little bit. And so for me, it's like, okay, well, it's like that long period of time kind of saps my confidence. You know, like what's wrong with me? So that's really, like, yeah, it's definitely tied up with age, and it's also that long dry spell.
I know that one very well. I know the panic and anxiety that could cause, especially when a woman gets towards the end of her 30s. That is a panic time. And if this is your situation, or even the early, like basically the end of the childbearing years, even if a woman doesn't want to have a child, there's something really anxiety provoking about this time period for a woman. It symbolizes a lot for most women that I know. And the best I could tell you right now, because I don't want to take too much time to talk about this, is you will get through it. And I've worked with a lot of people around this specific topic. I worked with myself. That's how I learned how to deal with it the best. Okay. So the limiting. Okay, so I'm going to now tell you why it's good that you waited this long to find love, because it really, and I mean this wholeheartedly, it is a good thing. When you're single, it might be hard for you to actually understand this, but the reason it's good that you waited this long is because wherever you are in your relationship metrics, when you meet your partner, is exactly where the relationship will be cemented and sealed. Now, I know that was a mouthful, so I'm going to explain what I mean. By metrics, these are personal attributes of yourself. This is like the highest version of yourself. When you're at the highest version of yourself, that's the attraction point you want to meet them at. But it's from the time of the initial contact, like even if it's like an email, online dating email, that I consider the initial contact where you meet somebody. That is where your vibrational point becomes cemented and sealed. And if you aren't the highest version of yourself, and you're like what you think like when I see people, I have the ability to see what their ability is of their highest version of themselves. Actually, it's sort of interesting that we ourselves may have a hard time seeing it, but I'm sure like maybe you have a friend or a personal colleague that you're able to see that highest version of themselves that maybe they just have to step into, like maybe they haven't quite discovered themselves. But the important point is whatever the relationship metrics that are falling a little bit short, when you meet your partner, that vibrational status is going to be cemented and sealed, and it's very difficult to shift it after the relationships get started. So I'm going to explain what I mean by this even more. And this is because this is actually a really big one in my mind. And I'm going to give you a personal example. So before I met my fiance, I was always the pursuer. I usually found them before they found me on dating sites. And I was always wondering if they're going to call me back. You know, I was the one that was constantly leaning in. I was basically the one in what I consider the masculine. While they tended to be the ones leaning out. So before I met my partner, it was a time when my career was starting to boom. My psychic readings started to really improve, and I got the cutest little dog who filled me up with love. And frankly, I was just tired of trying. You know, if you've been single for a while, you probably know what you mean with the tired of trying. But from day one of our relationship, this metric shifted. Well, it shifted before I met him is the reason why it shifted while in the relationship. He became the pursuer of me. In fact, he pursued me for 4 to 5 months before I said yes to a serious relationship and eventually to love. So this is an example of how I shifted this particular metric prior to meeting him. And it stayed that way ever since, with him being more of the pursuer or the one stepping into the relationship. So this allows me to step into my feminine and my receptive field, which was my desired state. So I could go on with the metrics. Actually, maybe later in this talk, I'll give you some more examples of what I'm talking about. So it's good. I just want to emphasize that it's good you waited this long because in the past, you just weren't ready. Something in your vibrational state needed to shift in order for you to be your highest version of yourself, because you want to be that person to attract that man or that woman that you envision. Why should they settle for anything less? So once again, I want to reiterate this point, and then I'll open it up to comments. It's extremely difficult to alter your relationship metrics once the initial meeting has occurred. So if anybody has any questions or thoughts or examples for themselves, I'll just take a brief pause. Okay, so now we're going to move into the second biggest barrier to love. Whatever our biggest unmet need from childhood, it could be being held or listened to. You know, think back to your little boy or girlness when you were like 3 or 4 or 5. What is it you really wanted that you didn't get? Maybe it's being taken care of or acknowledged. Maybe you were the one taking care of everybody else, even your older siblings or your parents. So here's a really big hidden secret. We will search our entire lives to find the mate who could fulfill this need. The greatest dichotomy about this is that until we fulfill this need within ourselves, preferably prior to meeting him or her, the relationship will never be completely healthy. So I'm going to go into this one further. So when we meet someone who provides this need for us, it tricks our subconscious mind into believing that this need is met, providing for us a toxic mimic of love to our encoded neural imprints about what love is. We've been taught in all the books and, any relationship information that's out there that it's our pheromones or one's physical appearance or smell that attracts us to one another. Yet in my research, I've come to disagree with this one. I think that the number one attractor we have to a partner is their ability to meet our unmet needs. Just take a breath on that one. It's huge. When I discovered that a little while ago, I was like, wow. And this is 100% accurate from every, I work with a lot of women and men, a few men, looking for love. And it's completely like, if you look at your past relationships, for instance, what attracted you to that person? And it might be that there was in some whereabout way, they provided either the fulfillment of that unmet need or the toxic mimic of that fulfillment. For instance, say your unmet need was being really listened to and deeply held, both emotionally and physically. And you meet a man that has really strong arms and this amazing caring embrace and caring demeanor. And when you're in his arms, all worries disappear. Life is amazing. I'm sure a lot of us could relate to that one, right? You fall for him completely. As all of a sudden, with this void of this unmet need met, everything in your life becomes amazing. Yet, give it a period of time. If you haven't met this unmet need first, suddenly you realize something like he's completely boring and you actually want someone who mentally stimulates you. Or he's gone for a period of time and suddenly you feel the void of not being held or listened to and loved. And then your body starts to associate that with a trigger or emotional trauma from childhood. Abandonment. I'm just going to pause there because I know that was a really hunker of a topic. Just want everybody to take a breath on that one. Whew. Deep stuff. So what's the solution? The solution is to meet our needs first. However, I know you're probably thinking, easier said than done, Shara. And that's true. So this is a dichotomy. I love dichotomies. So the dichotomy is you have to meet your need first, and that's the number one thing that's going to attract you to somebody is your unmet need. Put this into research. And I'd love to have comments or feedback maybe after you let this one settle in about how this is true or even maybe possibly untrue for you. If anybody wants to make any comments about that one, feel free.
Shara, this is Lori.
Okay.
I can definitely see with my early marriage, he was really funny and thought I was really funny, and I had grown up with a very serious, distant father, there was no humor in his world. And I really yearned for just fun. And I can see how that was one of the things that instantly I fell in love with.
Mm.
Yeah. So what you're saying totally fits for my experience. Yeah.
So what was the unmet need that got fulfilled there?
I think the unmet need would be a sense of closeness through the laughter and the humor. And also like acceptance, like being thought of as funny, is like, that's important to me because I'm just a goofball.
Yeah. So in this dynamic, you felt important. You felt seen and acknowledged.
Yeah, right.
It was like the little baby Lori was like, I am hungry for that. I want that.
Right. Exactly.
Isn't it amazing how our cognitive mind can put all those other filters aside? Like, we don't see the asshole. We don't see the unavailable. We don't see all those other things. If this thing is like the main thing that's like attracting us.
Yes. Yep.
So now what happened as far as that unmet need in this relationship?
Well, over time, we were together for 7 years, got married, had a beautiful daughter, but it just became like not that important because other things were not there,
Mm-hmm.
like emotional maturity and
Mm-hmm.
like an adult sense of responsibility, like those
Mm-hmm.
things that would be aligned with my growth in that time. I kind of grew up,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
he didn't in that time period.
So now take a moment. This is actually just for the audience. This is the first time Lori and I have had this conversation. We're actually doing this completely spontaneous with our conversation. So just take a reflection, Lori, on how since that relationship, your existence basically has been on, and maybe I should phrase it, your heightened awareness has been on fulfilling that unmet need within yourself. You maybe weren't consciously aware of it, but subconsciously, like your career you chose, you're in several leadership positions where you're acknowledged and seen and listened to. And you told me you've led actually several webinars, which is why I chose you for this one. So, when I look at your course, it makes sense about how that was your unmet need according to
Oh,
this journey.
wow.
Isn't that
Wow.
crazy?
Yeah, I've never seen that before. Yeah. Yeah, I can see it.
I'm just reading what Boone wrote here. Okay, so I am going to move on. So the biggest blind spot, number 3, and then when we're done with number 3, we're going to do a meditation and a closing, and then we'll open it up to questions, just so you know. So number 3 is a woman's happiness level, meaning their ability to have or their ability to receive, falls short. Just take a breath on this one, because this, with my research, and by research I mean working with people, I view all of my information as research that I'm gathering. This has become an American epidemic that not 100% of women, but pretty much like 85 to 90, if not 95% of women fall into this happiness level shortage. And this shows up in one of 2 categories. Either they feel like they're not enough, and then, what happens if somebody feels like they're not enough? They then feel like they don't deserve, and then they have to go through life compensating for their deficits. And they compensate by taking on more responsibility. So these are the ladies that get exhausted and tired. These are the ladies that, well, basically, this is my story. I always felt like I was never enough. And so that's the basis for me crafting my behavior and my actions and my personality upon who I thought that they wanted me to be. So I was constantly like doing what I thought they would want me to do and dressing like how I thought they wanted me to be, and et cetera, et cetera. So basically, that's the number one. My having this, my ability to have attention or anything along the happiness, like a man's love, a man's placing money on me, a man's, actually, it's really interesting. A lot of us are short on the having this level of actually being seen. It's really interesting for those women who, there are many, men too, who have the shortage of actually being seen. If you fall into that category, and ask yourself how much you're actually able to be seen. Like if somebody was looking at you in the eyes, are you able to really like just hold space and really allow yourself to be seen, like the intricacies at a cellular level? It's actually really scary. And this is actually a huge relationship barrier, is the ability to let other people in, to see them deeper. And so instead, it's more of a pushing away energy. In fact, because they're unable to receive or have as much love, as much attention, financial support, etc. Or they believe that, so they either believe that they're not enough, or they believe they're too much, or they believe that they're a combination of both. So lots of women who believe that they're too much, not all the time, but oftentimes these are the women that have a little bit of extra weight put on their bodies. But in general, anytime a woman's receptivity portal is off balance, then we will get tired, and then we start to complain about how exhausting our relationships are and how much emotionality we're putting into them and receiving very little back. Something is off balance big time. If this is the scenario, then what happens is the woman proclaims, I'm done with love. I'm better on my own. And she gets sort of a bitterness or hardness around love. So, I'm not sensing that the people who are on this call fall into this category, but this might have described you in the past. Or we could think of at least one or two other women who fit into this scenario. But this one is one that I think you'll relate more to. She gets so locked into her busy world to fill the void of what she's lacking in love, thinking, my life is good, I don't have time for a man, and then creating an energetic wall or barrier to keep love out and to feel safe on the inside. Now, this also stems back to the relationship metrics I referred to in number 1. So you have to work this one out before meeting your mate. For once patterns are put into place, especially at the beginning of the relationship, they're very difficult to change while in the relationship. But there is hope. I believe if there's a will and enough dedication and love still in the relationship, and people are on the same trajectory, like their goals and their values still line up, I do believe it's possible to change this. But it's much harder to change it after you've entered into the relationship than before. We feel like it's what we do that makes us worthy of love, rather than simply being that is enough. And this is another huge epidemic that women are facing. And it's really popular in our generation for us to be the doers and feel our value according to what we do, as opposed to just being. And the reason for this is that so many of us have fathers who are unavailable or are just incapable of meeting our emotional needs. I'm going to repeat that because this is really important. That so many of us women had fathers who were just unequipped. They were unskilled. They didn't know how to sense what was going on inside of us. And even if they did, they wouldn't know how to meet our emotional needs. And hence, our self-worth was dependent upon what we did to make ourselves worthy, as opposed to just who we were. Now, if you enter into a relationship with this one, this is a big one, then you're going to get tired. You're going to get tired of constantly seeking your value and your acknowledgement according to what you do. The best way is just to know your inherent value when you enter into a relationship. Just knowing that you are this amazing, extraordinary, unique individual who's put on this planet for a divine purpose. And your individual essence is really what has attracted him to you. You don't need to do anything to change it. You don't have to have your hair a certain way or have your eye makeup on the right way, or it's not about your job. It's about the essence and the true nature of who you are that will be a soul attraction to the very perfect mate for you. If this pattern of the receptivity does not come into alignment and is not healed, then right here, this is a recipe for emotional eating. This is when we hide in our painful emotions in food or work and run from the truth. And when we're out of our truth, we're out of alignment. And when we're out of alignment, we either make wrong dating or relationship decisions, or our vibrational attraction point on love is off. The cleanse opportunity, which I provide in my women's program, is a 10-week class. It actually starts this Sunday. And the cleanse opportunity, there's a 21-day detox cleanse involved with it. And this has all sorts of benefits, but one of them is it's a good opportunity for you to help to reset your hypothalamus or your satiation center of your brain. So you learn to eat according to your body's needs. Like we do have cellular needs. Like we need nutrients in our body. And our body's actually constantly giving us these messages as to what we need, but our emotions are actually stronger. And they communicate stronger about our preferences. Like we might have hidden judgments around certain foods, and we might view other foods such as chocolate or ice cream as, in the good category because they have throughout our life provided us that emotional support and comfort. So I encourage you, whether or not you do the program and the cleanse, to learn to eat according to your body's needs as opposed to its cravings, or even worse, its emotional needs. So I invite everybody now to just take a breath. That was a lot of information there. Breathe it in and exhale it out. Breathe it in and breathe it out. Take a couple more breaths and know that whatever you gathered from this webinar is just the right amount of information that you need to know to go forth into the world and to be the rockin' amazing person who you are. Close your eyes. Imagine you outside in front of you. Imagine an image of you out in front of you. Imagine the ideal partner, Mr. and Mrs. Right, out in front of you. You're facing one another. You're looking into each other's eyes and allowing yourself to be fully seen for the true essence of who you are. How does that feel? He firmly and confidently takes your hand into his while still gazing into your eyes. You feel the warmth of his hand. You feel protected and safe. He's so close to you, you can feel his breath. Sink into this experience of being fully with this dream partner. What does he feel like in your body? What does the sensation feel like in your body? Now walk forward a step and place your head onto his solid chest. Go ahead and lay down your ear on his chest. You can feel his heartbeat. He puts his arms around you in a firm and loving embrace. You feel so held, so taken care of, so nourished and loved. The feeling that everything is going to work out as it should washes over you. His breath stabilizes. He wants to take care of you. Allow your weight to be supported by him completely. Just breathe in his smells. Breathe in the taste. Envision it completely, like he's right there. You've been wanting this for so long. And it's great for you to get clear about exactly what it looks like and feels like. And when you're ready, let's say goodbye. This is not a goodbye forever. It's only a goodbye for now, until you meet again. Now, still keeping your eyes closed, I'd like you to see two paths. One stem out from him and one stem out from you. And I'd like the paths to go slightly in opposite directions from one another. And then they come back and they converge. See how long it takes for the two paths to once again converge again out in front of you. like two roads separating and then coming together once again. And see the two paths conjoined way out there in the future. And all of a sudden, these two paths become one path. And they continue on and on. This path, it looks brighter. And there it goes out into your future. And when you're ready, slowly come back into your body and open your eyes. And I promise you, Mr. Right is out there and he's waiting for you and so excited. He's actually just as excited, if not more, to meet you as you are to meet him. Congratulate yourself from doing all the hard work, even just getting on this call or listening to this webinar. That takes your time and energy to be brave enough to do that. But you're dedicated and you're willing. It's so interesting. My partner just texted that he feels so blessed that our paths have met. I feel touched. Okay, so give yourself a little jiggle. Come back into your body. We're just going to recap what we talked about from today. We talked about the 3 biggest barriers to attracting love. And the solution is, number 1, for our beliefs. We need to change our associated imprinting around our limiting beliefs. We need to heal our unmet needs before entering into a relationship. And if you're already in a relationship, it's the commitment to continue to work on yourself and heal these unmet needs and take the responsibility off of your partner healing them. And number 3, to learn how to open up our receptivity portal and begin to receive again. Even if it's as simple as receiving a compliment. That's a really good place to start for a lot of women, to just start with receiving a compliment and receiving it fully, just letting that compliment come all the way in, hearing it, feeling it, and move all the way through our body. So in a moment, I'm going to open it up to questions, but before I do, we are going to talk about ways to work together and next steps. So, first of all, sorry to change gears so fast here. There's 2 ways to work with me. One is through my personal coaching, and the other is through my 10-week women's program, which actually begins this Sunday. So, here's a peek into the Path to Love program. What you'll experience is ending your limiting beliefs and replacing them with more healthy ones. This is something we work on, kick them out right at the start. Crucial. To end family imprints and ancestral pains and burdens. To release any clutter or baggage in your home and in your life. This is a part of the 21-day cleanse. So there's 3 components. One's the clutter, space clearing, and to create that house, that home, create your home. Once you create it, they will come. And the second part is the food, eating right for your body composition. And the third part of the 21-day cleanse is it's working with your energy system of your subtle energy body and cleaning out the 7 major chakras of the body. Okay, you'll also heal shame, body image, and sexuality issues. You'll develop an unshakable confidence that magnetizes emotionally mature men and available men who want to provide for you on a deeper level than the ways in which you have been provided for. We'll do some rituals to call in love and manifest just what you want. And this time without selling yourself short. Like a lot of us are like, I had one before I met Frank. I was like, I know that they're going to have kids probably at this age. So I was like, I'll just be okay with the fact that they have kids as long as they make me number 1. But, I got clear that I actually want a man that's completely available for me. and has like, Monday through Friday, 7 days, not like 2 days, not half the week, but I wanted them to have all the week free. And we'll have weekly emails with the next level of instructions, deep connection and sisterhood. We'll have an active Facebook group, and you'll receive my direct transmission and psychic guidance throughout the 3 months. This program you could do remotely by Skype or phone if you can't make it, or FaceTime, or you could do it in person with us. So the value of the class is $5,000, and I'm not just pulling this number out of the hat, which is very easy to do because this is really what the average price for a program like this would be. I'm actually taking this number according to what a mentor of mine is charging, but the 5,000 class is just phone calls, not in-person meetings, not offline guidance. It's 1 hour a week for 10 weeks, and that's it. And that is the $5,000 class. Most classes of this quality and nature range between $5,000 and $10,000. And you're welcome to look around at other programs. And in fact, the rate of mine right now is $9.95. If I do this program again, it will never be this low again. I'm actually doing it this low because, first of all, I'm committed to helping people. It's a topic I'm still very passionate about. And second of all, because I love the sisterhood that's created from it. It's sort of like hanging out with your buddies and checking in, and this exciting, really positive, high vibe, oxytocin kind of energy. So if you want to know more about the program, just go to this link below. My email, you can contact me. Well, most of you have my email, but you could contact me through that link as well. And if you want to set up a discovery call to work together, then just go ahead and shoot me an email. We'll set up a time to talk. It's free. No risk. And here's a link if you want to know more about the coaching, how my coaching works, or we could talk in person about that as well. So once again, the Path to Love program starts this Sunday. So it's starting right away. So we'd love to have you join us. And now I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions. But before I do, I have one closing remark. And that is, I want to encourage you from now until we meet again, or if our paths don't cross again, to become the best possible version of yourself. So imagine that most amazing dream of a partner you just envision yourself with. Who would you need to become in order to be an appropriate mate, appropriate vibration, to attract that person into your life? Just create an image of that right now and ask yourself, what does this woman or man think? How do her thoughts go throughout her day? Who is she in the world? How does she carry herself? And create a full and complete image of this amazing person that you already are. I can validate that. And then the last step is completely letting it go. Just blow up that image like a balloon popping into a million pieces. Gone. You did an amazing job. If you made it through this webinar, you did it. That's how my work is. We go deep, we go in, and then when the session's over, it's like, just let the universe take it from now. And I promise you that Mr. Right is out there waiting for you. And I thank you for attending this webinar. And I'm excited to see you on the path to love. And with that, I'm going to open it up to questions.
Shara, I have a question, unless you see some coming through right away.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. So what do you think of, sometimes people say that love grows, and then sometimes people say instantly. What is your take on that?
That's a great question. I always thought I was one, I maybe egotistically thought, oh, I know myself so well. I know, I had this really clear vision of what my partner was going to look like. And I mean, I saw him in my dreams, like literally that's how clear it was. And I mean, for years, I basically held this vision. And I have a pretty good read of character, and I'd go out, and I'd be like at a bar or something, and they'd be like, there he is, that's the one. And I'd go over and I tried to meet him, and he fit this, scenario perfectly. And then they always ended up being unavailable. So I always thought that's the way it was going to work for me. However, it worked anything but that way for me. Like when I first met my partner, I actually didn't think that we were relationship compatible. And I know it's a really interesting story. And he just didn't let up with having us see each other. And so I was like, yeah, okay. And then finally, but now when I think of him, I think he is exactly that image that I envisioned, that I dreamed about. Like I had a list of like 200 characteristics. Like I actually made that literally. I had tons of characteristics of qualities I was looking for in a partner. And I think I was just like blinded. And I think for me that actually had to happen, because my past is I would like get so kind of like little girled up, chiseled when I saw the person who met what I was looking for, that I lost myself. And Frank was the first guy that I didn't lose myself when I met him. And the whole way, actually the whole time, I keep thinking I'm going to go back to like rubber band back to that old kind of like insecure, trying to find myself person. Never happened. And I think for some people, love does happen the magical way you're talking about, but that wasn't my story. And I think for a lot of women, it could happen either way, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to add, and this is really interesting about love, and I think this is also a missing link that people have around love, is that when you find love, like we all have this romantic or some kind of image of what love is, or what we think love will feel like, right? But I was really surprised that when I realized I was in love with Frank, it was the moment that I felt 110% of Shara. Like I felt completely 100% me. And I had never, it was like one day I was sitting there just feeling so Shara-ness. Like it's hard to describe, but I felt like I wasn't hiding from me anymore. I felt like I was totally me. And we had this easiness with just being around each other. And that's the moment I realized that, oh, that's what love feels like. I don't know if anybody else would like to comment about that, or had any experience of that, or any of your own experiences or comments. Now's the time to hop in, and any feedback, comments, questions, personal experiences, let's chat. Breathe in and out. Whew. Any other questions from you, Lori? Anything you want to share?
Well, it's, yeah, there's this friend of mine who I've been friends with for a long time, and there's just something brewing there, and I just adore him as a friend. And then I'm like, could I fall in love with him? How could this be possible? And I mean, there really is the potential for romantic love there, and it's so kind of came in the back door, and so I'm a little like, huh? But at the same time open, because he's just, I mean, he really, like, if I were going to list characteristics, he has all of them and more. And yet I would have never really, I don't know where this came from. It's really nice.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So this is another thing that is worthy of making mention of. When you are on the path to finding love, and you're like, so, okay, let me just back up and say, most people fall in love, but they're not their highest version of themselves. And what happens is they have big relationship stuff. Like my grandparents, they yelled and screamed at each other like almost every minute of the day. And they call that love. Okay, so, I see a lot of relationships that have stuff like that going on. But when you're, I just lost my train of thought. Oh my gosh.
That's all right. It'll come back. Or something else will.
Yes. Dang it. That was a big one.
It'll happen at midnight or like, you know, middle of the night.
I'll be in the middle of my dream. Yeah, this point was so important.
There it is.
Well, one other thing I was going to say too is when you are your best version of yourself, that, oh, here it is. Okay. So right the moment before you actually meet that partner, you're going to start attracting, first of all, synchronicities into your life. Like things will just be like working out. You're like, how did I just get that job bonus? Or I was just thinking about somebody and they just called, or you'll be thinking about the color blue and all of a sudden you walk into a blue room. So synchronicities, but also you'll start to attract people who have the qualities and are closer and closer to it. So what I take from that is a sign of like, you're on the right path. And it's amazing. So those are really good. And you know, it's good to keep, I call it research. Keep researching, you know, what you like, what you don't like. And, you know, specifically for you with the pattern of attracting boys.
Yeah. Right.
There's a lot of work we could do around that. And we'll do that one-on-one.
Oh, great.
Noticing when that pattern happens and then taking it upon yourself to change the pattern. But the trick is you change the pattern before that interaction happens. And then the interaction cannot be the same. It's crazy how predictable these things are.
Beautiful.
But I will say for you, I do think you're getting quite close.
Oh,
so I'm really excited.
Good.
I'm really excited to go to your wedding.
Oh, lovely. That makes me so happy to hear that. Thank you.
Awesome. We'll take a couple more breaths. See if anybody else has any questions, any comments. And yeah, oh, nope, nobody yet. This is actually a really good time of the year. The reason I actually chose to start the women's program right now is because we're basically in October, and it's the end of the season. And you might not know it now, but when it comes to wintertime, the tendency is for us to get very isolated and lonely because the days get shorter. So we tend to spend more and more time on our own. I knew that being single for like every winter was really devastatingly hard for me. It was like more and more time online, see what's going on instead of actually being out in the world. So that's actually why I strategically planned it for this time. And it's also, autumn is a really beautiful time for transitions. You know, summer is kind of like exciting. It's really sunny and our energy gets all, you know, dispersed. There's so many fun things happening. But this is actually the perfect time for us to kind of, as the weather cools and our energy calms down, we become more insular. You know, you might not know it yet because it's been very hot, but give it a few weeks and this might make sense to you. And this is the time for deeper reflection. Autumn is a time for deeper reflection and going inward and communion, really. So, and the program actually ends. The program actually ends the week before Thanksgiving. And so then all the magic gets stirred up and working then through the winter.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Well, beautiful. I think this is a good place to close up shop here. And I thank you everybody for participating with us tonight. There was a lot of interest in this webinar and I'm really excited to help you in finding that magical love out there. And magic does exist. Right, Lori?
It sure does. Totally does. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Shara, for your beautiful teaching and your coaching and your beautiful spirit. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much. And closing off and out. Mwah.